The night was cold and silent on Outpost E-17. Jacob sat near the small heater inside his bunker, reading an old book and sipping instant coffee. Outside, the solar storm made the air glow with green lights, dancing across the sky like ghosts. He was alone on this frozen moon, just a cargo pilot waiting for his next assignment. Nothing exciting ever happened here, until that night. A strange sound broke the silence. It was a scratching, soft at first, then harder, more desperate. Jacob stood up, grabbing his old plasma rifle, and walked to the heavy steel door. The wind was howling, but the sound came again, 3 quick scratches. Then silence. His heart beat faster, but curiosity pulled him forward. He pressed the unlock switch, and the door opened with a hiss. There in the snow was a figure. She was on her hands and knees, breathing hard, her golden fur covered in blood and snow. Her eyes glowed faintly bright amber, like fire trapped in glass. She looked up at him, lips trembling, and whispered, "Help. Please, danger." Close. Jacob didn't hesitate. He grabbed her arm gently and pulled her inside. She was freezing, shivering violently, her clothes torn and one leg wounded badly. As soon as she crossed the door, she collapsed on the floor, unconscious. He locked the door, then lifted her into the warmer back room, laying her on the bed. He looked at her closely. She was humanoid, but her ears were sharp and furry, and her tail twitched slightly. Her hands had claws, but not like weapons, more like an animal's. She wasn't dangerous, not in this condition. Jacob cleaned her wound, gave her a blanket, and placed a warm drink beside her bed. She woke up hours later, sniffing the air before drinking quickly, like she hadn't eaten in days. "Where am I?" she asked weakly, her voice soft but alert. "Safe," Jacob said. "I found you outside. You were freezing." She looked around, her eyes scanning the room like a wild creature. Then she relaxed, just a little, and said, "Thank you." "My name, Rin," Jacob nodded. "I'm Jacob." Rin looked at him strangely, then leaned closer, sniffing the air near him. "You smell strong," she said, almost confused. He raised an eyebrow, unsure what to say. Rin didn't speak much after that, just sat quietly and finished her drink. But when Jacob tried to step away, she suddenly grabbed his sleeve. "Wait," she whispered. "Don't leave." "Not safe alone." Jacob sat back down, watching her. She was clearly scared. "But not of him. Who hurt you?" he asked. "Do you need help?" She hesitated, then her eyes darkened. "They're hunting me, my own kind." "They don't forgive." Jacob felt a chill, but not from the cold. "Why are they after you?" he asked. She looked away, ears drooping slightly. "Because I chose something different. I left the pack." Her voice cracked like someone hiding a deep pain. She curled up in the blanket, whispering something in a language he couldn't understand. Then she suddenly looked at the door, her ears twitching again. "They're close," she said sharply. "They can smell me. Maybe even you now." Jacob stood and checked his scanner. Nothing showed up, but her fear felt real. "What do they want?" he asked, loading his rifle just in case. "They want me back," Rin said. "Alive or dead doesn't matter." She stepped forward, close to him, and whispered, "If they find us, they'll kill you first. To hurt me." Jacob looked into her glowing eyes, realizing this was far more serious than he thought. "Then we stay hidden," he said. "You can rest here until it's safe." But she shook her head slowly. "Hiding won't be enough. Not now." Her hand touched his arm gently, claws soft against his skin. "I need to bond with you. Just for protection. It will confuse their senses." Jacob blinked. "What kind of bond?" She didn't answer right away, just said, "You'll see." But we don't have much time. Outside, in the snow-covered silence, something howled, far off, but getting closer. Jacob looked at the door, then back at the strange alien girl who now trusted him. He didn't understand it all yet, but he knew one thing for sure. This night was not going to be ordinary, and this visitor was about to change everything. The wind outside roared louder the next morning. Jacob woke early, his hand still gripping the plasma rifle beside his bed. Rin was already awake, sitting silently by the window, her glowing eyes locked on the snowy horizon. She hadn't spoken much during the night, but now her fur bristled and her breathing was tense. "They're near," she said softly, not turning her head. "I can smell them in the wind." Jacob stood up and walked closer. "Your people?" Rin nodded slowly. "They are not people, not anymore. Just hunters, following instinct." She turned to him, her voice low and serious. "They will find us soon, and they will not stop." Jacob didn't ask why they were chasing her again. He could see it in her eyes, the kind of pain only betrayal could bring. Instead, he asked, "How many?" "3, Rin said. "Maybe 4. "But the Alpha is with them," Jacob frowned. "Alpha?" She nodded again. "The strongest of my pack, and the cruelest." "He's coming here for you?" "No," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "He's coming for you, now that I've marked you." Jacob stepped back. "Wait, what?" Rin looked away, guilty. "Last night, I touched your arm with scent glands. I marked you as mine. It was the only way to confuse them," she added quickly. "If they smell you as bonded, they hesitate." "Bonded?" Jacob repeated, stunned. "I didn't want to do it without asking," she whispered. "But they were already close." Jacob took a breath, trying to stay calm. "So now I smell like your mate?" Rin looked at him, ears flat. "Yes, but if we act together, we may survive." He walked to the scanner panel, flipping through the sensors. Still nothing. But he trusted her instincts now more than the machine. "Do you want me to run?" he asked quietly. Rin stood, stepping closer. "If you run, they'll catch you, and I'll lose the only good thing I've known." Jacob looked at her, truly looked, and saw the loneliness in her expression. Her tail lowered, her hands clenched. Tightly he sighed. "Then we fight together." She gave a soft growl, not a threat, but something close to relief. "I will show you how to hide your scent better," she said, "and how to move quietly on snow." That day, they worked like shadows. Rin taught him how to rub snow root oil across his clothes to block the scent trail. She made him wear one of her fur-lined cloaks that held her scent. Then she taught him how to crouch low, walk soft, and breathe shallow that night. They sat together by the dim heater. Rin's ears twitched constantly, alert to every distant sound. "Your people are strange," she said suddenly. "You speak kindly, even when afraid," Jacob chuckled. "I could say the same about you." She tilted her head, curious. "Do all humans look like you?" Jacob raised an eyebrow. "What, rugged and tired?" She smiled slightly for the first time, her sharp teeth barely visible. "Comforting," she whispered. Suddenly, she stood up, tail stiff. Jacob followed her eyes to the window, where a small red light blinked on the snow. "Motion sensor," he said quickly, running to the console. "One signal, just one for now." Rin's claws slid out with a soft click. "He's testing us," she growled. "The Alpha. He wants to know if I'm still afraid." Jacob loaded his plasma rifle and locked the outer doors. "We hold them here?" he asked. Rin shook her head. "No. We show them this is not prey territory anymore." She walked to the center of the room and pulled her jacket off, revealing older scars on her back and shoulders. "This is what he gave me," she said, voice flat. "When I refused the last mating trial." Jacob felt anger rise in his chest, not just for her pain, but for what still hunted her. "You don't belong to anyone now," he said firmly. She looked up, surprised, then nodded. "Then let them come." In the darkness, something howled again, closer this time. Jacob and Rin stood side by side, weapons and claws ready. The storm outside was nothing compared to what was coming, but inside that small bunker, something new had already started, a bond not of scent or survival, but of choice. Jacob awoke with a strange heat crawling across his chest. His eyes opened slowly, and his hand reached under his shirt. There were marks glowing, faint orange patterns, drawn in careful lines. They weren't tattoos, and they weren't wounds. They pulsed like they were alive, warm and gentle, like fire without pain. He sat up fast, and Rin was sitting beside him, quiet, her ears down, her tail resting still. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I had to begin the bond, Jacob." Blinked, confused and half awake. "You did what to me?" Rin stood and walked to the heater, pouring warm water into a bowl. She didn't answer right away. "You're marked already," she said softly. "But that's not enough anymore. The Alpha will test us," she explained. "He must believe we are truly connected." Deeply, Jacob stared at the glowing symbols. "And these?" She knelt beside him again, her hand hovering over the marks. "This is the start of the bond ritual. The old way, if we finish it, he can't challenge you, not without breaking the code." Jacob shook his head, trying to think. "So this bonding thing, what does it mean exactly?" Rin looked up at him, her eyes serious. "In my kind's tradition, it means I choose you. Forever." Jacob's heart skipped. "I didn't agree to forever," he said slowly, though his voice wasn't angry, just surprised. "You saved my life," she said. "You gave me warmth, food, and safety." Her voice softened like a whisper. "I've never had that before." He didn't know what to say. He wasn't ready for forever, but somehow it didn't feel like a trap. It felt like she wanted more than survival, more than instinct. Outside, the snow pounded harder against the roof, and distant howls echoed again. Closer now, Rin stood, stretching her shoulders, her fur rising slightly with tension. "I can complete the bond alone," she said quickly. "If you don't want this, I'll find another way." Jacob stood too, taking a step forward. He looked at her, really looked. She was a warrior, scarred and hunted, but still kind, still loyal. "No," he said quietly. "I'll finish it with you." Rin stared at him, ears twitching like she wasn't sure she heard him right. "I don't understand all of this," Jacob added, "but I trust you." She exhaled sharply, like she'd been holding her breath for hours. "Then kneel," she said softly, "and don't move." Jacob knelt in the center of the floor, while Rin gathered strange powder from her satchel. It shimmered like crushed crystal and smelled like burnt wood mixed with honey. She mixed it with the warm water and dipped 2 fingers into the paste. Then she gently traced more symbols across his arms, chest, and neck. Every line pulsed warm, as if it recognized his body. "This part connects." "Scent," she explained. "Then sound. Then heartbeat." Jacob felt his skin tingle with each stroke, but not uncomfortably. Rin leaned closer, pressing her forehead to his. Their eyes locked, breath shared, and for one strange moment he felt her fear, her pain, and her hope. Their heartbeats synced, like drums falling into rhythm. And then it was done. She stepped back, chest rising and falling fast, like she'd run a marathon. Jacob stood slowly, and the symbols on his body faded to a dim glow. "It is finished," she said, her voice trembling. "You are mine now, and I am yours." Jacob looked down at his arms, then at her glowing eyes. "So now what?" Before she could answer, the motion scanner beeped 3 red dots moving fast through the storm. "They're here," Rin said, grabbing her claws and sliding into a ready stance. "They'll smell the bond," she said, "but they won't believe it unless we prove it." "Prove it how?" Jacob asked, eyes wide. She gave him a sharp smile, half teasing, half serious. "Try not to die in the next 10 minutes." As they moved toward the door, side by side, Jacob couldn't help but say, "This might be the weirdest relationship I've ever had." Rin growled low, amused. "Just wait, human. It gets stranger." Outside, the snow swirled like ghosts dancing in war paint. And just beyond the fence, glowing eyes appeared, watching, waiting. But this time, Jacob wasn't alone, and he wasn't prey. The wind outside stopped suddenly. It was too quiet, like the snow itself held its breath. Jacob stood near the reinforced door, his plasma rifle loaded. Beside him, Rin's eyes were fixed, her claws out, Her muscles tense like a coiled spring. She whispered, "He's here." The alpha. I can feel his steps through the ground. Jacob pressed the scanner panel again, 4 red dots, right outside the perimeter fence. The outer lights flickered on, and shadows moved in the swirling snow. Rin leaned close to Jacob, her voice low and sharp. "No sudden moves. Let me speak first." "Speak to who?" Jacob asked. Before she could answer, a powerful voice boomed through the wind. "Come out, traitor. And bring your pet." Rin's ears folded back, her breath turning cold and heavy. "That's him," she said softly. "The alpha. He never forgets. And never forgives." They stepped outside together, snow crunching under their boots. 4 figures stood at the edge of the clearing, 3 of them tense and growling. The 4th was taller, broader, with silver streaks in his dark fur and sharp yellow eyes that burned like fire. He took 1 step forward, and the others stepped back like soldiers before a king. Rin stood tall, unafraid. "I've claimed sanctuary," she called out, "under the bond of blood scent and life thread." The alpha laughed, a deep, growling sound. "You claimed a human," he spat. "A weak little prey animal with soft skin and no honor." Jacob's hands tightened on his rifle, but he held his ground. Rin raised her voice. "I chose him." Her words echoed across the snow. "I chose him with the old ways. He is my bonded mate. And under law, you have no claim." The alpha stepped closer, sniffing the air near Jacob. Then he made a low sound in his throat, disgust, disbelief. "This human does not carry warrior blood," he said, circling Jacob like a predator. "He smells soft." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "You want to test that theory?" Rin growled. "He survived the cold, helped me heal, faced your shadow without fear." But the alpha ignored her, his eyes locked on Jacob. "I challenge," the alpha said. Suddenly, bond cannot be honored unless the mate proves his strength. He will enter the ring, or the bond is false, and I take back what was mine. Jacob looked at Rin. "Ring?" She swallowed hard. "A trial, a fight. 5 minutes against the alpha." Jacob looked back at the towering creature. "That's insane," Rin whispered. "I can't protect you if you step into the circle, but if you win, even survive." "He can never touch us again," the alpha roared. "Choose, human. Run and die as prey, or stand and be tested." Jacob took a deep breath. "Fine. I'll fight." They moved to a circle of rocks marked in the snow, ancient symbols carved in ice. Jacob handed Rin his rifle, and she pressed her forehead to his. "No matter what happens," she whispered, "you are already stronger than They know." The alpha stepped into the ring, grinning like a beast, claws flashing under the moonlight. The pack howled once, then silence. The fight began. Jacob dodged the first swipe barely in time. The alpha moving like a blur, he rolled in the snow, grabbed a handful of sharp ice, and threw it straight at the alpha's eyes. The beast staggered for a second, giving Jacob just enough time to land a hard punch to the side of his head. But it was like hitting stone. The alpha laughed, then slammed Jacob into the ground with a brutal swing of his arm. Blood filled Jacob's mouth, but he refused to stay down. He stood again, shaking, breathing hard. Rin screamed from the edge. "Just survive." 5 minutes. "You don't have to win." Jacob remembered her words and stopped trying to hit. He started dodging. He ducked under claw swipes, rolled through the snow, used the circle itself to confuse the alpha's path. Each time the alpha lunged, Jacob moved just far enough. Time crawled forward, second by second, heartbeat by heartbeat. Finally, the alpha growled in frustration. "Enough. You are not prey. But you are not worthy either." Rin stepped forward, eyes glowing. "He is mine, and he endured your trial. Now you must obey the bond." The alpha looked at Jacob, who stood bloody, bruised, but still standing. Then he turned away and let out a howl, a signal of surrender. The pack followed, leaving into the darkness, their shadows fading like ghosts in the storm. Rin ran to Jacob, catching him before he fell. "You did it!" she said, voice trembling. You survived. Now no one can challenge us, Jacob coughed. Smiling through pain, you better be worth all this trouble. She held him close and whispered, You have no idea what's coming next. Jacob lay on the soft bedding, wrapped in thick blankets soaked with herbal scent. His body ached from the trial, every rib screaming, every muscle tight. But it wasn't the pain that kept him awake. It was Rin kneeling quietly beside the heater, breathing fast, tail twitching like it had a mind of its own. She hadn't said a word since helping him inside, but something about her had changed. The firelight danced across her golden fur, and her skin shimmered in places where it never had. Before, Jacob tried to sit up, groaning slightly. Don't move, Rin said quickly, her voice strange low, soft and too warm. You need rest, she added, but her eyes didn't meet his. She kept fidgeting, rubbing her arms, breathing. Heavy, are you okay? Jacob asked, watching her. She looked away, ears folding down. No, something's wrong, or right. I don't know, Jacob blinked, confused. What do you mean? Rin finally turned her head, and her cheeks were glowing faintly pink. My heat has started, she whispered. I didn't expect it so soon. Jacob sat upright now, fully alert. You're what? She stood up and paced the floor, her claws tapping the stone. My kind, when we bond, the body responds. But this is faster than normal. It's because you're human, she added, her voice trembling. Your scent, your presence. It's making everything stronger. Jacob felt his heart pound faster, not from fear, but from surprise. So what happens now? He asked carefully. Rin paused, looked at him, and then knelt again, this time closer. If I don't release this heat, I will suffer. And the bond may weaken. Jacob opened his mouth to speak, but stopped when she leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. You have the right to deny me, but if you say yes, I'll be yours in every way. He stared into her glowing eyes, unsure what he felt, but unable to look away. Is this what you want? He asked gently. Rin nodded slowly. I chose you before. Now my body chooses too. Jacob exhaled slowly, the room suddenly feeling warmer. You're not just doing this to stay alive? No, she said firmly. I want this. I want you. He touched her hand gently, her claws retracted, and her fingers curled around his, soft and trembling. She leaned into him, her head resting against his chest. You should prepare, human, she whispered, voice barely audible. We're having puppies. Jacob blinked hard, thinking he misheard. Puppies? He repeated, shocked. Rin nodded, still curled against him. My kind. We carry fast after bonding, and I can already feel them inside. He stared at her, stunned, speechless. You're serious? Yes, she said softly. Your human biology is stronger than they thought. It triggered everything. Jacob leaned back against the bed frame, trying to process what just happened. He wasn't just bonded to an alien now. He was about to become a father too. Alien puppies. I need a minute, he muttered, eyes wide. Rin chuckled softly. You have about 6 days. Wait, what? My pregnancy will be complete in 6 Earth days, she said calmly. We grow fast, remember? 6 days and I'm a dad? Jacob groaned. That's faster than express shipping. Rin climbed onto the bed beside him, curling close. You'll be a good father, she said gently. I saw it the moment you opened the door and pulled me from the snow. Jacob didn't know what to say, so he just wrapped an arm around her. Outside, the wind howled, but inside, it was strangely peaceful. The fire crackled softly, casting golden light on them both. Rin's body was warm and soft, her breathing steady now. I never thought I'd end up like this, Jacob whispered. Bonded, expecting pups. On a frozen moon, Rin smiled into his chest. And I never thought a human would be my safe place. He held her tighter, heart racing but strangely calm. It didn't make sense, not fully, but it felt right. And maybe, just maybe, The strangest thing in the galaxy wasn't war or aliens or danger. Maybe it was love, asterisk. The next morning, Jacob woke up to soft whimpers and the sound of scratching. At first, he thought it was the wind again. But when he opened his eyes, Rin wasn't beside him. She was crouched in the corner, claws gripping the wall, breathing hard. Her fur shimmered with sweat, and her eyes glowed brighter than ever. "Rin?" Jacob called out, getting up slowly. "What's wrong?" She looked at him, her voice shaky. "They're growing. Fast, too fast." Jacob rushed to her side, placing his hand on her back. She flinched at first, then leaned into his touch. "My body can't keep up," she whispered. "But it's not pain. It's pressure. Movement." He helped her stand and guided her back to the bed. "You said 6 days. Are you sure?" She nodded weakly. "Yes. I felt the first heartbeat last night. Now I feel 5. Jacob's mouth opened. "5? "Yes," she whispered, her lips curling into a weak smile. "You've been quite effective." He blinked hard, trying not to panic. "I didn't think it would happen this fast," he muttered. Sitting beside her, Rin rested her head on his shoulder. "Your scent, your warmth, it's speeding everything up." They spent the morning preparing. Jacob gathered supplies, blankets, water, dried protein bars, energy packs. Rin showed him how to grind a root called Zara, a natural calming herb for her kind. He boiled it into tea and made her sip it slowly. Every few hours her belly changed visibly rounder, her breathing deeper. Jacob watched with awe and a little fear. "Are you scared?" he asked softly. Rin stared into the heater's flame, only of losing this. Them." Jacob squeezed her hand. "You're not losing anything." That evening, as they sat together in the low light, Rin's ears twitched, her gaze snapped to the window. "They're back," she said quickly, her voice firm again. "Not the alpha. The females." Jacob stood up fast, checking the scanner. 2 dots, small but fast-moving. "Friends?" he asked. Rin shook her head. "No. Rivals." Jacob handed her his rifle, but she pushed it away. "I can't fight like this." "But I won't let them take my pups." Jacob armed himself and stepped to the door. Rin grabbed his wrist. "If they challenge, don't kill them unless they strike first. They'll smell the pups. That may stop them." He nodded, heart pounding. Outside, the cold slapped his face as he stepped into the storm. 2 figures stood by the fence, feminine shapes, both with tails and sharp eyes. The taller one growled, "We smell it. The bond. The life." Jacob didn't reply, just stood between them and the door. The second one whispered, "She has pups? Already?" Rin's voice came from behind him, sharp and steady. "Yes," she called out. "And they are mine. Not yours to judge." The taller female stepped forward. "We came to see if it was true. If you really chose him." "I did," Rin said firmly. "And I would again." The 2 strangers sniffed the air, then backed away. "The alpha has retreated," the shorter one said, "but others will come. Not all will respect the bond." Jacob narrowed his eyes. "Let them come. We're ready." The females didn't argue, just nodded once, and vanished into the night. Jacob stepped back inside and bolted the door. He looked at Rin, her eyes full of worry. "They'll keep coming," she said, "to test us. Or take the children. Then we make this place a fortress." Jacob said. He reinforced the walls, upgraded the heat shields, even rigged motion mines outside. Every hour Rin rested, he worked harder, but he always returned to her side, bringing warm soup, soft clothes, or just silence and his hand in hers. By the 5th night, Rin's belly was large and firm. She could barely walk, but her eyes glowed with pride. "They're almost ready," she said softly. "They kick when you're near." Jacob smiled, placing his hand gently over her stomach. He felt a small pulse like fingers tapping from the inside. "They know their father," Rin said, her voice trembling. Jacob didn't speak. He just kissed her forehead. "I'll protect all of you," he whispered. Outside, the sky turned Red from the twin moons, a sign of new life in Rin's culture, inside the bunker. Warmth and purpose filled every corner. Tomorrow, the pups would arrive. But tonight, they were still just a promise, one made in snow, blood, and the strangest kind of love. The bunker was silent, too silent. Jacob sat beside Rin, wiping sweat from her forehead with a warm cloth. Her breaths came fast and sharp. Her claws dug into the bedding. "It's time," she whispered, eyes glowing fiercely. "They're ready." Outside, the snowstorm raged, but inside, the only storm was the life about to begin. Jacob had never delivered anything in his life, not even mail. Now he was kneeling beside an alien warrior, about to help her bring half-human pups into the world. Rin gripped his arm, her voice a low growl. "Don't leave me." "Not for a second. I'm right here," he said, voice steady even though his hands shook. She screamed once, not in pain, but in effort. Then came the first one, small, golden, breathing. Jacob caught it in a soft blanket, eyes wide with wonder. The pup looked up at him, blinked, and let out a soft howl. Rin let out a shaky laugh. "That one has your stubborn face." One after another, they came 5 in total, tiny creatures with her ears and his eyes. Some with fur, some without, all breathing strong and fast. Rin looked at them, then at Jacob, and tears filled her glowing eyes. "I thought I would die alone. But now I've given life." Jacob wrapped her in his arms, whispering, "You're not alone. Not ever again." Hours passed, quiet and warm. As the pups nuzzled against their mother, Jacob stared at them like someone seeing stars for the first time. He had fought alien warriors, survived freezing storms, and faced a trial by death, but nothing had prepared him for this. Tiny fingers wrapping around his thumb, tiny growls in their sleep, tiny hearts beating with hope. Then the motion sensor blinked red. One figure, large, standing at the edge of the perimeter. Jacob stood, slowly, picking up his rifle, but Rin stopped him. "Wait," she whispered. "It's not a challenge. It's something else." They stepped outside together, snow crunching beneath their boots. A tall figure stood alone, head bowed, arms empty. It was the Alpha. He looked at them, eyes dim, no longer burning with fury. "I smelled the birth," he said quietly, "and I came. Not to fight, but to understand." Rin stepped forward, calm and firm. "They are mine and his." The Alpha nodded slowly. "I see that now. And I see what I could not see before." He knelt in the snow, a symbol of surrender. "The pack is yours now," he said to Rin. "If you want it." Rin's ears twitched, surprised, but she shook her head. "I don't want the pack. I want peace." The Alpha looked at Jacob, then at the stars above. "Perhaps peace is what we need," he murmured. "Not just survival. Not just blood." He rose and took one step back, then bowed deeply. "Protect them, Father of 5," he said to Jacob, then vanished into the snow. Inside, the pups stirred, sensing the calm beyond the storm. Rin curled around them, her tail wrapping all 5. Her voice soft as she sang an old lullaby in her language. Jacob sat beside her, no longer just a pilot or a survivor. He was a protector now, a partner, a father. He leaned against the wall, watching the flicker of the heater light on their golden fur. "I never thought this was how my mission would end," he whispered. Rin looked up and smiled, tired but happy. "It's not the end," she said softly. "It's the beginning of our pack." As the snow fell outside and the stars blinked quietly above the frozen moon, 5 small new lives slept in peace, and 2 souls so different, yet somehow perfectly matched held each other close, not as strangers, not as soldier and survivor, but as family.